So, DC here. Hi, guys and gals. Well, this is going to be mostly, I would say, a Spooky University video. Let me zoom that in a little bit. There we are, a little bit. There, just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so this is going to be a Spooky University reply. Number, let me see, I'm going to check. Number 61. Yeah. So it's about if you had a personal museum, what would be in it? Now that's a good question, and I think that if I had a personal museum, it'd have to be many rooms, because somehow there's many me's. And I could envisage it having somehow with holograms, where you'd have the different me's telling stories, and who knows, projecting out of my eyes pictures, I don't know, whatever. But I mean, there would be stories going on, and there would be kind of like a video of each part of that bit of my life. So I would start with my youth probably, and go about like what brought me maybe to the person that I am, you know. There would be some less fun parts as well, you know, like sometimes bad times it's at school, for example, or things like that. What else would I add into there? Well, of course, I mean, there'd be a whole big section on family, that's for sure. But they were, like I say, if it would be about me, well, yeah, I would, because it's all about me if it's my museum. Not really, actually. If it's my museum, it's all about the people and the situations that made me who I was, am, will be. So that is actually a very interesting topic. Like, for example, I met Mrs. DC when I was still 15. And of course there'd be a whole section on friends, and friends, I mean, have been such a big part of my life. I mean, and some would have actually probably rooms just for themselves where you talk about them. I think there'd have to be also a really big section on multimedia, because if I think of like the old school multimedia, which were our cassette decks and cameras and stuff like that. Like I say, old school multimedia, Super 8, and whatever. As soon as one could make actually movies, one did. But before we could make movies, we just used our imagination. I mean, I would make up things like games. And when the friends came together, we would play these scenarios, so I guess that would be there as well. So there would be a kind of a cosplay room almost, could you call it? So in a museum, what else would you have there? In a museum, very often there's pictures, there might be works of art, there's surprising things that you didn't expect. Usually a museum can be kind of autobiographical. So like I say, there'd certainly be a lot of pictures, but there would be a lot of stories. There'd be a lot of the spoken word. There would be some written word as well, because I have written some things. Maybe the love letters would be, I mean, because I'd be gone, and so maybe the love letters would be around there and in one room, and there'd certainly be stories about trips and, like I say, meetings. I think those that have known me for a while would say there would be a lot of nostalgia, because I think that is part of my character, actually. Being an immigrant, there are things that I have known. I've been to many countries, lived in a few, loved a lot of them, and so there'd be a lot of that. And there'd certainly be an enormous room dedicated to, I'd say, social media, in particular YouTube. Now, in YouTube you would have everything there. So could you imagine, like, what am I up to now? I don't know. It's like 1,500 some odd. I don't remember exactly now. Anyway, it's, can't quite see it here. 1,500 more videos. Does it say somewhere? It should normally. Oh, whatever. Anyway, there's 1,500 more videos, I mean, that I would have to have circulating. So I don't think that people would have them all. They could probably have these things where they could, like, look into a television camera and relive, you know. What would be also really fun would be to have what I would call virtual conversations. There's all these subjects with people that, you know, if you have so many videos, you've covered, like myself, I've covered a lot of topics. So we could have almost interactive moments with people. The thing is, though, is that talking about a museum and planning a museum is almost, in a morbid way, like planning a funeral. I've known people who have done that. I mean, they've planned their own funerals, which basically is planning their own epilogue. So I guess one could say that planning a museum would be something like that, I guess. Then I would have to have a large section also, when I say on multimedia, would be also on spiritual life. And how come multimedia and spiritual life? Because a large part of my way of evolving in spiritual life, beliefs and so on, started, yes, with the family, but also with the television, from Billy Graham on to podcasts, to different things that I would read and so on. So of course, I mean, the whole spiritual component, and I'm not talking about, you know, belief right now. I mean, in the sense of, yeah, one would say, well, is your spiritual life based on the web? No, of course not. It's based for me on a relationship with Christ. But that's not, well, yes, there would be, certainly that would be part of it, because like I said, there would be discussions and everything. But to get back to what I was talking about would be to keep the multimedia component of how multimedia has actually had compartments in my life. Like, you take, for example, years ago there was a lot of cosplay, like with the Stone DC and so on. A lot less now. But all those Stone DCs, and as my mother used to like to call it, stupid DC, they came from somewhere. They came from imagination, and they molded, at one point, the person that would be in that museum. Yeah, I'm certain there'll be a lot of other things. Photography, I mean, like I said, there'd be a lot of photos. But I'd probably have to have a room with all the cameras and the lenses and everything that went into making the multimedia. So there'd be tons of computers and networks and whatever. And like I say, friends would be everywhere. It'd be like stars in the skies. Yeah. Is that about it? I guess that's enough. I could certainly add more things. I mean, I would have books. I was forgetting books. And then, of course, there would be a geocaching room and so on. One's just going to stop. It would be such a big, big museum. It would be not the British Museum, it would be the Bernie Museum. Woohoo! And it would be free. No monetizing there. It would be free. Okay. What else did I forget? Wine. Beer. Whiskey. Yeah, there'd be a room for that. Food. Kitchens. People. Reunions. Love. Family. Am I missing out on something? You just add in the missing slots, because there'll be a room for it, and there'll be a room for you. Yeah. So, DC. Signing off, everybody. That's Spooky University number 61. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.